Welcome, Chiefs Kingdom, to another episode of The Aftermath. I'm your host tonight, CJ Jones, with my brother, my friend, my buddy, Chris Tenpenny. Chris, how are we feeling on another victorious, kind of stress-free, but 6-1 victory week, my friend?
Stress-free is what I like to hear, and by most Chiefs games, that was definitely stress-free. I am doing great, my friend. Missed you on the preview show, but glad to have you back.
Chris came in clutch, everybody.
Hey, no, Keegan filled in for you well, but no one can really fill in for CGZ, man.
I try to do what I do, man.
You're one of a kind, man. Your bets were doing fire too, even though you weren't there. Like, I'm just happy to have you back to talk about this 6-1 Kansas City Chiefs that have they put the division away by Halloween? People are saying it.
Is it even
I
Halloween yet? Oh,
I
man.
haven't said it yet, but
I
people
didn't
are
say it.
saying
They
it.
said it. We
Yeah,
didn't say
exactly.
it.
They saying it because they're
They
six
said
and
it.
one, and the 3-4 Raiders are the closest team to them, which is pretty hysterical. Like I currently have Brian Hoyer at quarterback, but let's get into the Chiefs beat the Chargers 31-17. Where do you want to start? You want to start offense? You want to start defense? Like, what was the number one thing you saw that you were like, damn?
Charles Omenihu is freaking for real. His immediate impact was felt almost from the very first snap of the game when he was on the field. Immediate pressure. He got multiple quarterback hits. He ended up with a sack. And me and Chris talked about his impact being on his defensive line. And we obviously have more reinforcements on the way with today us signing Mike Pennell and then obviously the rumors of Frank Clark coming back. This defense was already for real, but they proved it Sunday with Charles Omenihu on the field. That was my biggest takeaway for sure.
Yeah, he was a monster, and I think I was the one on a bold. Not to pat myself on the back because it still may not happen, but like,
I got you,
uh,
bro.
I said he was going to still be second on the team in sacks by the end of the season. When you look at the
One
stats,
down.
yeah, and like I know there's still still got a little ways to catch Dana and whatnot, but like the way he came out swinging against the
Fast, man.
Chargers, that doesn't seem so bold. Again, we'll have to see if he can keep it up, but man, having that defensive line, and they also, they just signed Mike Pennell to the practice squad,
He's
another
back. Mikey P's back,
another
baby.
depth guy showing up. So like this defensive line's crazy. The Frank Clark rumors keep on swirling. I don't even know if we need those guys. Like, let's be real.
That's like
Like,
icing, right?
exactly. Like when you've got, I loved at the end of the game how we saw the four playmakers that were getting after. You saw Dana and Amenahue inside. You saw Chris Jones
George.
move out with
Facts.
Carl Loftus. It's like
I loved it.
those four are just they are so much fun to watch. And I again,
Absolutely.
we always find a reason to come back to Mike Dana because I think he's the biggest surprise of the group. But the last 2 years, man, just watching him continue to
Super
grow.
underrated.
I mean, I love that man. So the defensive line's crazy.
Facts. And they just like, and you could tell at the end of the game, I was trying to write it down and watch the game at the same time on my phone. I was trying to get notes so I could talk to Chris about it. I was looking at the rotations, like the last 7 minutes of the game, the rotation was Charles, Chris, George, and FAU. But then towards the end of the game, like the last 2 minute drill, when they had the last drive and we got the game sealing interception, it was Chris, Mike Dana, George, and it wasn't Charles. Oh, and Felix was no, it wasn't Felix.
Was it Naughty?
Naughty was the
Yeah,
last
yeah,
one. So they
yeah.
were rotating between like those six guys was like the rotation in the
Hmm.
last few drives. So I was trying to interesting. We always talk about NASCAR package, NASCAR package. That was like our biggest talking point all off season. So that was interesting to see Charles first game back. Who's the guy on the field at the end of the game when we're in that obvious passing situation? So that was interesting to see. But I think all, like you said, all six guys got after the quarterback. We got so many quarterback hits, so much pressure all over the field. So it was good to see the guys get after it. And it's only the beginning. So Charles only had his first taste of what it's like to be in Chiefs Kingdom. So we got a lot more work to do, but it's a hell of a start for sure.
Right now, it was definitely an impressive debut, and this whole defense continues to do what they do. After watching the Browns give up 38 points, after
Whew,
watching the
that was rough.
Kirk Cousins kind of pick apart the 49ers,
400
and
yards of offense. Oh, God.
again, the Chiefs defense is the
Oh,
top two defense, and they ain't two.
don't look now. Don't look
They ain't
now.
two. It's a little bold. We're being a little bold.
Yeah, are we? After this weekend, I don't think we are. Before this, I don't think we're being bold right now. I'm just saying.
I mean, the takes because of two big plays, because of the big play to Palmer, and then Kelly's long touchdown run when they had 17 first half points. The way some of you abandoned this defense on the fan base should
Oh
be
my God.
ashamed of yourself.
How did
Like
they do that?
they didn't give up a point the rest of
Point.
the game after that.
You should be ashamed of yourselves.
7th straight game holding opponents to 20 points or less. Only
Oof.
team to do that in the NFL this year. Yeah, I mean, yeah, you're right. Maybe it's not too bold. They
It's
might
not
be the
bold no
best
more, bro.
defense in the league. I still give a little leeway to the Browns because of what Myles Garrett and some of those guys are doing over there.
Yeah, he's amazing.
But the whole
But
body of work, there ain't no 38-point game on the Chiefs
mm-mm.
scorecard right now. And these guys, how do they keep doing it? I mean, I know they have the D line that we talk about, but I mean, the secondary, dude.
It's just the overall depth, like you said, we're deep everywhere. And coming into this year, I said like this linebacking group was going to be deep. And obviously, Nick Bolton left the game with a wrist injury. We pray that he gets well and come back. But we didn't miss a beat when he left the field. Drew Tranquil, poetic justice, he ended the game with a sack. That's like the way you
Yeah,
have to end a game versus your former team, right? So
it have
we just showed flashes. Willie Gay had I need to find that clip. He had a crazy play. He jumped up middle of the field, batted the pass, and it ended up being picked. So
he
Willie
had a
Gay's super
crazy day.
athletic all over the field. Willie's such an athlete, bro. Like he just showed it on that play. I'm gonna post it on the timeline, but he's such a crazy athlete. It doesn't make any sense how fast and how strong he is. So when you have guys like that, and we're not even talking about Nick Bolton, that lets you know how deep this linebacking group is. Because we know how valuable Nick is to the defense, but he can lead the field and we'll be just fine like we were the past 3 weeks. So secondary played amazing. Brian Cook got his first interception. Shout out to B Cook.
Yeah.
That was good to see. Trent was everywhere on the field. Snead was making plays. Josh and Jalen had some good solid plays as well. So overall, outside of that big play to Palmer, their receivers really didn't have a crazy day. And that's as we expected. No Mike Williams on the field. Quentin Johnson, I believe, had one catch for 20 yards, I believe.
Yeah, he's still super raw.
Exactly. He's super raw as well. So outside of that big play to Palmer, this defense, like Chris said, didn't give up a lot of chunk plays, which is what you expect. So second half, not giving up a single point, very impressive, especially to a team that you know that's going to throw the ball, you know they're going to be aggressive. And to get multiple turnovers. And like I said, Chris, that's another turnover. Every game this year so far, we've had one or more. So that's another reason why I think we're a number one defense in the league right now. Because not only are we getting the stops and holding teams under their averages with points per game, we're getting the turnovers to back it up. And getting the ball back to this kind of offense, which me and Chris will get into later, when they start getting rolling, it's a scary sight to see when you give the best quarterback in football, arguably the best defense. So that's something we can never be able to say in Chiefs Kingdom, and we can say that now for sure.
Right, 2 picks, 5 sacks. I mean, 0 second half points. Like it's
I don't know
just
what more you need to do. Like
and again, it's not like we're just seeing it's 7 weeks. It's been all season up to this
facts.
point.
I think
Like
Keenan Allen finished with what,
he had
55 yards?
9 targets and he only caught 4 for 55. So like 55, is a good chunk, but it's not game breaking, especially when
Yeah,
they
that's
threw
a
it to
normal
him
day.
9 times. Yeah.
Exactly.
Like he's gonna get his. He's a normal, but he didn't really get enough. Like 55 yards, I will take that any day of the week. Again,
Absolutely.
and then Palmer ended up with 133, but again, most of that was on was it, like 62 yard.
Yeah, no one shot. Right.
So it was right at 60 yard pass play. So like, it's just another day at the office for this defense. And again, the Nick Bolton news stinks because
It
he
sucks.
is such a lead by example kind of guy. I know he's not the most vocal. He
Yeah.
knows how to run the defense, but middle linebacker is a position that you can afford, especially when you have a quality backup. But like even if you didn't have Drew Tranquil and you had a less than average backup, and you said you have to have an injury somewhere with a less than average backup, middle linebacker is probably second behind running back that I'm picking. It's
Facts.
just not nearly as important to the success overall, in my opinion, as a corner or a pass rusher or a left tackle or something like that. So, yes, big loss. Yes, it's going to stink to see him out for probably, he's probably going to miss 6 to 9 games, something like that, depending on how the recovery. I know they said 2 months, but with the buy in there, we'll see how the recovery time goes. But now he's just going to be ready for the home stretch for the title run, as some people like to refer to it as. So, it could be a good thing. Also, it's going to get Leo Chanel probably a few more reps. Willie's going to continue to maybe show out in a contract year, and then so I'm not as worried about it as outside of it sucks that Nick's not on the field.
No, for sure. I mean, if anybody could do it, it's definitely a guy like Drew Tranquil. He's held this is like, and Willie's and the Knicks missed games this year so far. So
Right.
This isn't his first instance with him being out the field. So I'm not worried at all. He's been a revelation. And it's actually, I was listening to the radio today, Sirius XM. I love that signing even more. One of the beat reporters for Buffalo said they were dying to get Drew Tranquil in the building. So the fact that we stole Drew Tranquil from the Bills in free agency makes it that much more sweeter because he's been a hell of a player for us. He's obviously a great dude if we met him. as everybody around the city's gotten to know him better. But we've seen him play for the Chargers for so many years and make great plays. And obviously, everybody knows the whole story of us taking Trent McDuffie and then Kyrie Elam being like right next to each other in the draft.
And then
So another one up of us getting the Bills, and their fans aren't too fond of us. So
right.
it's been a great year so far for Drew. He had a hell of a game. Definitely a way to end it off against your former team with a sack. He obviously, I think he ended up, with 6 tackles. I have to double check that in the stat sheet, but great game for him and Willie as well. They both are all over the field making plays. This group can withstand the depth because they have it, like Chris pointed out. And obviously, the next couple of weeks is pretty tough because they obviously have the Broncos. Division matchup is never easy, but after then you got the Miami Dolphins. And even though they haven't beaten a team over 500 as far as record wise, they're still a dangerous football team with a lot of weapons. So you want to have all your horses out there. But playing a team like that, I think our defense is capable, given the fact that me and Chris just pointed out our deep defensive line. So if Nick has to withstand a 3-4 week stretch of being out, or maybe longer with his injury, I think we'll be fine to do so because we have the bye and some easier matchups in the back end of the schedule. But hopefully he can come back for like around Buffalo time, Cincinnati time as well for sure.
Yeah, definitely. And not to get too far ahead because we will do a preview when the Miami Dolphins game, but it's almost kind of a bless. The Chiefs would have played Nick in that game had he been healthy. With the speed of Miami, I think Drew Tranquil is who you want
Yeah,
out there
that's a Drew type game
anyway.
for sure.
So,
Definitely.
like, honestly, in a weird
Low
way,
key helps, yeah.
like in that one game, that one
That one
Miami
matchup
game,
for sure.
you almost have the better player suited. But we'll get to that, as we get down the road. But
Right.
let's shift over to the offense because those boys were cooking, and they're starting to find a groove, man. They're starting to, the last few
You want
weeks,
some rice?
it's been the yards. Like we've seen the yard, right? Like I
You want
almost
some rice?
almost went right over my head. But yeah, Rashee Rice continues to be that guy. Continues to see his snap count go up. 40 snaps to Sky Moore's 41. So they're splitting time there,
Getting close.
which is what and that's third. Sky was 2 at 41. Rice was 3 at 40 with MVS still getting 50 some odd snaps.
Definitely be as normal.
Him having an impact. I know there's that screenshot going around of where there was even more yards on the bone there for MVS, where Pat was looking to his left and MVS was cutting across the middle of the field with wide open. But hey, those plays are going to happen. It's just good to see him being open and making an impact.
Facts.
And this receiving core, again, we'll get into the bottom of the depth that were the storyline in here in a little bit. But like as far as the guys that you're starting to see consistency from, you're starting to get.
No, absolutely. And coming into this game, this was the game we expected. It's like, all right, we got Miko back in the fold, somebody else who knows the whole route tree, who knows the playbooks. I think that's one thing that we've kind of said over and over the past couple of weeks. The reason Rashee Rice is doing so well in the slot, obviously that's where they're keeping him at in the fold for this offense. But when he does graduate, Chris, to playing Z and outside the numbers, this offense is really going to get scary. Because I love Miko for what he does. He had an immediate impact via the punt return, that deep slant that we had to use a kid to end to seal the game to get us in the red zone for a first down. 2 major plays for him, and he's always made big plays in his career in a Chiefs uniform, so that can never be discredited. But that go ball to Miko down the sideline, and Pat tried to give him an opportunity. Did Pat underthrow it? Yes. Is that a play and maybe a bigger receiver probably makes a play on that ball? I believe so. So not to say you can't give Miko opportunities to make plays because he's in this offense for a reason. But in that situation, for that type of ball, I would rather that be to a guy like Rashee Rice, a 6'1", big receiver, physical, a guy that can maybe get over a DB's head and make you catch the ball, contested type of catches. Miko's never been that kind of guy. That's not what we're really asking him to do. So when Rashee Rice fully has the trust from Andy and he knows the Z and X position, you know how Nagy is and the whole offensive staff. If you don't know every receiver position, they're not going to put you out there as much. Because Rashee, really, I agree with you. He should be getting more snaps. But if he doesn't know every route tree or every spot in the offense, they can only put you in so much. Sky knows everything. That's why he's always been playing more. So eventually when Rashee Rice does graduate, and after the bye, it's like the grading scale. Maybe he does get that learning curve and kind of gets more snaps. But that's the next step in his offense for me.
Yeah, no, definitely excited to see how he continues to grow. Going on to the Mahomes pick just real quick because it was kind of a weird play because it was to Hardman down
Like a
the side.
one-on-one, yeah.
A couple of things. First off, it's not that big of a deal. It was like 3rd and 9.
Yeah.
So
Overall,
and
yeah.
then it was a punt. They got it at the 20-yard line of the
Essentially,
other
yeah,
end,
a
like
punt.
so
Yep.
it was a punt. Second, Mahomes hasn't been good at throwing the deep ball since like 2020. I don't know what it is,
Yeah,
but
ever since we got MBS here, he's been kind of off. Yeah.
he's well. I think even before that, man, because I look back to like remember
The
the
2020, the
Browns
last big year.
game. to open the season. I think that was the year after we won the first Super
Mm-hmm.
Bowl.
Yeah,
And
for
like
20.
he underthrew Tyreek, and like it just has never looked clean. And I don't know it's because he doesn't have to do it as often because he's really good 30 yards and less. Like just watch.
Intermediate and less cool.
Yeah, and 30 yards is a great chunk
And
play,
that's
but
still a chunk play.
you need him to wind up and throw it 45, 50 yards in the air. It just hasn't been his strength, and it's like they're so good at so many other things.
Can't have
Like,
everything, can
yeah, like I don't know. I don't other than throwing it just to maybe keep the safeties hold a second every now and again, I think is good, but I know chicks dig the long ball. I
you?
don't need it, man. If you're throwing 25 crosser routes to MVS or what, and hitting
First
Travis,
downs, baby.
that's all I care about. I think you
The
can
real
extend
chicks dig first downs, Chris. Yeah.
exactly. Taylor Swift digs first downs.
Taylor, you saw the handshake. Shout out to Brittany with the booty bump.
Oh
Yeah.
my gosh,
Yeah. Shout
that's
out
almost
Taylor and
excited me
Brittany.
more than
Yeah.
anything else. Justice for Brittany, because man, she was
Shout
getting
out
angry.
Brittany, man.
But no, this offense is starting to click. We saw the yards. They did well in the yards department in the Vikings game and in the Broncos game, but it wasn't quite translating to points.
Facts.
Now you saw 31 points on the board, and with missed opportunities too, there were still more points to be
Yeah.
had. But you're starting to see that
That
vintage
Jet
Chiefs
McKinnon
offense.
call we're gonna talk about that, Chris. That was low. That was a low blow, ref. I'm not gonna lie.
I didn't see it.
I was watching it. It was on the sideline. We were on, and I get where the ref is coming from because you like get him on the shoulder. But I mean, like, I think the call for me, if you're gonna call that, it has to be like a direct push in the back. If it's like a gray area between like your chest and your back plate, he got him on the shoulder. I'm like, well, can you really call that? Because I didn't really push him in the back. He pushed him right here on the shoulder. Now, if it's on this side or this side, I get it. But if I'm pushing you in this area, this general area, I don't think this is a block in the back unless I'm clearly pushing you back here. It wasn't in the back. That's why I'm getting like, where are you getting the call from? That's my only call.
I feel you, but that's not what I'm complaining about. Most people watching this or listening to this podcast did not see that play unless you were at the game or directly in Kansas City because we were getting the
CBS.
Browns. Yeah, CBS did not change it. We were watching Gardner Minshew and PJ Walker.
That's why my chat was going crazy. They were till I forgot.
No one saw Karlaftis get the sack. No one saw the block in the back on McKinnon or the first field goal.
CBS, what are we doing?
We didn't see any of that. So like I'm following it on Twitter and whatnot, but it's like how is this the national televised game and people like in Lawrence couldn't get the
crazy part. If you're locally, you couldn't see it. That's crazy.
You had to be literally in Kansas City from what I understand. And even the people in Kansas City were getting double boxed. We're getting like they were still had the Browns game on with the Chiefs, and it was the Browns game audio. It wasn't Romo and Nance. So
CBS,
like
we gotta do better, man.
Nobody saw anything until 3 minutes left in the first quarter.
That's crazy. Y'all missed like 8. What? Y'all missed 12 minutes of the first quarter? I know it was that long.
Yeah, it was insane. I'm down here in Oklahoma City, so I don't know how everyone else's experiences, but from everything I've heard and understood, like unless you were in the city, you did not, and they weren't calling timeouts. Did you notice how fast it was going? It was because CBS purposely wasn't going to commercial while the Chiefs game wasn't the national game. They waited until it became the national game to start using their commercials.
That's why I didn't even notice it. My chat kept saying, "Come on, CBS." I thought it was like maybe like 5 minutes. It was 12 minutes.
Yeah,
the whole quarter.
No, yeah, 3 minutes left in the first quarter, and I think one of the first plays I remember seeing doesn't mean this was Willie's big sack. The 12-yard loss or whatever.
That was like
down the red zone. That was the first play I remember really like sinking in. So it was around that time frame, man. But that's long.
Crazy. Well, I'm gonna have to send you all the good plays I'm talking about.
So,
I'm sorry, guys. I thought Chris was watching. I didn't know it was this bad. I was in Arrowhead screaming, so I apologize if I didn't know.
Right. The 80,000 of you at Arrowhead and the other people watching directly in Kansas City saw it, but
well, it was very similar to the Pacheco game-winning or game-ending touchdown screen. Same call, same play, same side of the field. Literally, Trey Smith did what Tooney did, and they called it a block in the back. I was like, I don't agree with that call at all. But like you said, it is what it is. There's always going to be bad calls. But overall, I think all the aspects of question marks we had, do we get our screen game back involved? We did that. Does Rashee Rice take the next step? He did that. Is Travis Kelce looking healthy? I think he did that as well. Pat obviously got completed more passes in the red zone, which is what we've been wanting for a while. And again, I know that we're kind of beating this like a dead drum because it's like the third week in a row. How did Rashee Rice keep getting open in the back of the end zone? Like all of his touchdowns are like him just like running to like the corner or running the back line of the end zone, just finding a spot and being open. I really don't get why you keep. I'm loving it, but it's crazy. Like
because he's good. Like
I mean, do defense just not? I mean,
find ways to get open.
Get the attention.
Yeah, 87 gets the attention, and yet he still found a way to get 12 catches
Open
for
every time.
179 yards. So, like, obviously Rice isn't that, but like good players find ways to make plays. And even though Rice is raw and he's limited in what the coaching staff will trust with him for a good reason, you don't ever want to put a rookie in a position where you're not 100% confident in him.
Exactly.
But the opportunities he is getting, he's making, and that's
Absolutely.
all you can ask for. And he continues to show up like each week goes by, my excitement level for Steve Rice just keeps going up and
Absolutely.
up. And I forget who had the tweet, so I apologize for not giving them credit. It may have been Yates for ESPN,
Field
but
Yates.
it was Joe Montana did not play his first year. Neither did Pat Mahomes. Joe Montana won a Super Bowl in year 3. So did Pat Mahomes. Joe Montana won a Super Bowl in year 6. So did Pat Mahomes. The Niners drafted Jerry Rice in year 7. The Chiefs drafted Rashee Rice in year 7. Now, none of that means shit, but it's
Sounds
still
cool.
kind of crazy. It's still
It
kind of
sounds
cool.
cool
Like,
though. Shout out to Phil. Appreciate the tweet, bro. That's a lot of work. That's a lot of digging he had to do. That's a
right,
lot of information.
exactly. That's a lot of digging there. So
Shout out to whoever's in the research team. That's a lot
right,
of digging.
I need to go back and find it because that was they need credit for that, but that was
Absolutely. That's a
kind of
lot of digging.
crazy stat there that I was loving quite a bit. But no, like
That's
he
funny.
keeps coming along. The offense is still good. As long as Kelce stays healthy, like
Absolutely.
this offense is the limit. So.
Another crazy day for Kelce, 170 yards. And that's just and we aren't even talking about him. He almost had 200 yards, Chris. We're not even talking about a tight end almost getting 200 yards is not normal. But for us, we're like, that's just Trav being Trav.
Oh, Eric Eager did it. He also does a lot of good work. He used to work for PFF, but I don't know where he's at
Shout out
now.
to Eric, man. That's a crazy stat.
But yeah, he does. It looks like Summer Sports is where he's at nowadays. But yeah, crazy stat there.
That's a hell of a stat, bro.
Anything else on the offense or in this game you want to talk about before we get to maybe the more unfortunate news coming out at KC?
Nope. I love what we did. Everybody got involved. MVS got in the end zone. Rashee keep doing his thing. Sky just makes timely plays for us. Miko had an impact at the end of the game, and obviously had a big return on special teams. So overall, the offense looked good to me. We didn't hear Jawan Taylor's name today.
Yeah.
I think Donovan Smith had one holding call. It was kind of debatable, but outside of that,
Joe
we
Tooney,
didn't hear.
that blew my mind when he got called.
I know. I saw the call. It was debatable. It was kind of
Yeah.
end of game trying to give him. So I was like, it was kind of a bang bang. It wasn't an obvious one. But other than that, no complaints from me. The offense looked good all around.
Yeah.
There's gonna be little things you can nitpick at, but overall, good day for sure.
Anytime you see over 400 yards for Pat and 179 yards for Kelce, you know it was a good day because that
really
deal is
almost
just
200 yards, bro. That's crazy.
it's just a machine. Last thing before we get out, and we don't need to spend too much time out of here, but Justin Ross got arrested. What was that? Monday late, around 4 or 5 p.m. For some what was it? It was a little domestic violence and over 20. Was it over 25K worth of damage?
But it was between 1,000 and 25,000.
So it was in the felony range. Gotcha. Yeah, like what are you doing, man? Like
I kind of laughed at this situation, and I'm not trying to be dense about the situation at all. I pray that everybody involved is okay and safe, and I hope the situation gets resolved the correct way. And I'm glad Justin's okay, and whoever else is involved, hope they're okay as well. But just from to lighten the mood standpoint, this is almost like a yearly tradition for us. Tyreek Hill, the off the field issue situation. Frank Clark, off the field issue situation. Willie Gay, off the field issue situation, and now Justin Ross. So it's like. And if we signed Charles Omenihu from the 49ers in the middle of the playoffs so it's almost kind of like a funny point. Like, why do we always sign a player who has something off the field wise? And I know it's football. And we try to keep it a football space, but we are humans at the end of the day. So we know like life happens, like guys get in things that happen off the field and you hate to see it happen. You never want it to be your team, but we live in reality. We can't like play it from ourselves. But from the football aspect standpoint, this does suck for Justin Ross because obviously we expected him to take a little bit of a step this year, being this the first year he played football in about 2 years from being out from Clemson. But an article came out today. I sent it to Chris about Justin Ross struggling a little bit in practice. And Chris was one of the first ones to say that. I think you were saying that like week 2, week 1.
Yeah.
In like beginning of the season, he's not getting on the field as far as snap count wise, not even plays or targets, because maybe he's not doing enough in practice. And somebody confirmed that today with what they've been told from inside the building. Justin Ross is slowly coming along and still doesn't know everything in a playbook and still trying to, physically imposing his will on this receiver room and getting consistent snaps. And Chris said it, so we got to give him his credit for that. If you're not getting snaps in practice and you're not being consistently dominant, coach is not going to put you on a game on Sundays. That's just any coach will tell you that from any level. So Justin Ross definitely needs to keep working on his game, but bigger issues off the field. But definitely praying for him and hoping everything gets resolved and hopefully he gets home safe and gets back to the team for sure.
Yeah, definitely. And on the whole snap count thing, it was like just I trust this. My whole reasoning was I just trust this group, this coaching staff too much. Like
Me too.
typically they don't let rookies play, and we see Rashee Rice out there getting plays and making them. Meanwhile,
Easy exception.
Justin Ross wasn't. So typically, what's the reason they just like Rice more? No, Rice is showing up in practice, and Ross is not, and Ross has clearly got other things on his mind if he's out there jeopardizing his spot in the NFL at all. Like again, it's bigger. It's bigger than a roster spot in the NFL. That anytime there's domestic violence and something like this coming out, but you got to use. You can't be getting your. I don't care. Like Tyreek Hill doesn't have an excuse for getting into this, but he's still Tyreek Hill. Like unfortunately, the world we live in, he's going to be able to get away with something like that. Or Kareem Hunt, like these situations we've seen.
Certain level of the exactly.
You can't be the seventh wide receiver with 3 career
trouble.
catches getting in trouble, man.
Facts.
Like
there's no benefit from you. You don't get the benefit of the doubt when you're at the back end of the room.
No, and you should never get the benefit out. Again, I'm not trying to make excuses for what other guys have done or what Ross is doing.
No, for sure. But just realistically, yeah, absolutely. The higher up you are, the more talented you are. You usually get a little leeway. Your Tyreek Hill, Kareem Hunt, you get a leeway. Frank Clark, you get a leeway. Justin Ross, they don't really need you on this roster. So they want you here, but they don't need you. So
exactly, I would not be surprised or really that upset about it if they cut him tomorrow.
I wouldn't be shocked.
That's kind of where
I want Justin here, but realistically, that's the reality we live in.
I'm always rooting for guys' success, but as soon as you do something that like jeopardizes that, I don't feel sorry for you when the repercussions come.
And it sucks. Like the timing of it is terrible because he was slowly getting more reps, slowly getting more involved, and we were like, okay, maybe the bye week is the light that click and the switch, and maybe he gets more exploded into this offense, gets more reps, and then this comes out. And obviously, we don't know the details, so we're not speaking on anything. Me and Chris don't know what's going on, but just from what the reports we've heard. Getting in trouble, even if you are the reason or not the reason, sucks regardless because you're going to have to pay the result for it.
Yeah.
Whoever else is involved is not going to have anything to pay as far as dividends because you're the one that's trying to make the National Football League, not someone else involved. So it sucks from his perspective because maybe he wasn't. Maybe he was the victim. Maybe he wasn't the one that initiated the contact. But the fact that your name is in the report and it's in the news, now you have to deal with the repercussions. Now, I pray that we don't have a situation like Kareem Hunt, like Chris just mentioned, where he tells the team the truth. Like, come forth, tell them everything that happened. And usually teams are a little flexible with you if you are upfront with them and maybe they can figure out something as far as like maybe team suspension. Because the NFL usually doesn't get involved until the next following year because like it's an ongoing case. So when it gets resolved, because I know they say he declared not guilty today. Right, so obviously he has a court date coming up soon. So obviously the league can't really give out their suspensions until the next season once the whole thing gets resolved. From a team perspective, they can do certain things like, inactive, not play you, practice squad, whatever the case may be. So it'll be interesting to see going forward, like Chris said, to see what the team does. But it does suck for Justin because just from an athletic standpoint, he's a very gifted player who could help out this team and help us win games. But off the field issues definitely hurt your chances because it's hard to focus on the room when you got stuff you're dealing with off the field, like going to court and dealing with all that. So it doesn't help at all for sure.
Right, when you're already struggling at practice. And last thing I do is like, again, it's also whether the because I know there's a lot of bad people out there that are also going to try to use your fame and your role as an NFL player against you. I understand that it happens, but also you have to understand the people that you put yourself around.
Yeah, can't be
like
around
other like it's not happened to Jalen Watson. It's not happened to Leo Chanel. It's not happened to the backup right tackle. Happened to Tyreek Hill because maybe that we all know that the woman that he was with a little crazy. Like he put himself in a situation to have those kind of allegations and things come up. Like you have to be careful about who you surround yourself with and the people you're with. So like,
absolutely,
it sucks regardless of what side it is, whether he did it or didn't. But like, just have to kind of see.
You're involved either way.
Yeah, you're involved at this point. You are involved. Yeah. So I didn't want to end the podcast on a damper mood, but I didn't want to. I'd rather end it than start it on a bad mood, especially after 31-17. Something we wanted to talk about. We'll see how this goes. But hey,
praying for you, Justin. I hope it goes good, bro.
For sure, definitely praying for Justin. But going back to maybe more positive. Chiefs and Eagles are the only 6-1 teams. Here we are in the NFL.
I'm running out of fingers, bro. 6-1, 5-1.
Week 8, and it's like the Chiefs lost week 1. Oh no, yeah. you look up and they're still they're about locked up the division. They're the 1 seed in the AFC, and the only other one loss team is the team they beat in the Super Bowl last year,
So
in the
much for that
Eagles.
slow start,
So
huh?
like, and the Eagles are kind of still stuck in a little bit of limbo, while the Chiefs continue to look like they're rising. So like,
And the thing about this is, like Chris, if you look at both of these rosters from like a comparison standpoint, they have this essentially the same roster, but they lost some pieces from defense.
yeah,
Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, Hargraves is gone. The secondary is not as dominant, and they're obviously their D line's not getting as many sacks as they did last year. Still an athletically gifted group when you add Jalen like Carter, but overall the defense hasn't been dominant like they were last year. Our defense, on the other hand, has gotten 10 times better. We're obviously we just had a conversation with them being the best defense in football last year. If you would have told me coming into the season the Chiefs will have a top five or a top two number one defense in football, what would you think the result would be? Like, oh, they're going to Vegas. I don't care who they're playing. If you ever give Pat Mahomes and Andy Reid a number one or a top two, top three, whatever you want to call it, defense, they're not losing to anyone,
yeah,
in my humble opinion, because that's the only question I've ever had about this team in the 5 year run we've had. And we know we've been very successful. AFC championships, we've obviously won the West every year. We've been to 3 Super Bowls, 1, 2. If we ever said, we say this every summer, if Pat ever got a good defense, getting to that end goal of the AFC Championship game, getting to the Super Bowl would be 10 times easier. So now that we do have that defense, I don't see how you could tell the other teams better than us right now. Because, like to Chris's point, our offense looked like ourselves on Sunday, and now the defense is playing on another level. So I don't really know how can you say we're not the best team in football right now. Because if you're giving Pat Mahomes extra possessions and you can't score more than 21 points on us, how do you really beat this team outside of like obviously knock on wood, besides like injury?
you don't.
I'm not trying to be biased. I'm being humble about it. I'm really saying if Pat Mahomes had the top five defense, we've been saying it for years. Now he does. How do you beat this team? I truly don't see. I truly don't see an answer
You
unless
want
they
to
beat
hear?
themselves
You want to hear the remaining schedule? I'm not going to go through here. Here are the teams the Chiefs play that are 500 or better.
or better.
They play the Dolphins in 2 weeks in Germany.
Thing
They play after the bye, week 11, November 20th. They play the Eagles in Arrowhead.
at home. Yep.
They play the Bills at
Bills.
Arrowhead, and they play
Yep.
the 3-3 Bengals at Arrowhead. That's it. Those are the only
That's
teams
it.
currently 500 or better, and
It's also the only
they're
team
either
that
at a neutral field or at
yeah.
Arrowhead.
Gets, so the neutral side, we're playing the Dolphins. We just saw them lose Sunday night to the Eagles. Their defense did not look that good. Offense was banged up with injuries. Obviously, some of their players are not going to be available for our game because they've been losing guys due to injury. The Eagles are a good football team. Definitely going to be a tough challenge for all the teams Chris mentioned, but this is not the same Eagles defense we faced last year. We're being honest.
Right.
This isn't the same team. Still a good football team up front. They can score. They can run the ball, but defensively, they're not the same. The Bills team is going through it. They just lost to the Patriots, and Mac Jones walked them down for a game winner. They're obviously losing guys left and right. I know Tre'Davious White's out for the year, and then Milano's out for the year, and they lost one of their other linemen, Daquan Jones. So they're dealing with a lot of stuff. And then obviously the Bengals, who Joe Burrow started off the season with his calf injury, and they're fighting their way back up to be 3-3. So all of those matchups coming to the season, still great games to watch, and we're obviously going to be paying attention. But the matchups don't look as daunting because of the things I just mentioned. And to Chris's point, our defense is elite now. So if you ever, like I said, I'm really trying to put this into people's head. We've never seen Pat Mahomes have an elite defense ever. The best one we had was 2019, and that was like what, top 15, top 12 his defense that year.
Yeah, I think
You
it
would
is
say?
around 12.
So like
Now they
we've
played a little
never
better
seen
than that on the way to the Super Bowl, but like,
exactly. So if Pat Mahomes really got this defense, which is getting better, and we're getting help and reinforcements coming back, it's going to be really scary for other teams in the league. I'm trying to be humble about it, but I've prayed for moments like this because we always have the argument every summer. Give Pat more weapons. Give Pat a defense. I've always been pro defense every year because getting stopped is way more important than having more weapons. Because if you can't score 20, I know for a fact Pat Mahomes is going to score 23. It doesn't matter who's out there catching the ball because that's how good he is. You feel me? I don't want to score 50 and wonder, oh, can they not score 50? We did that in 2018. I didn't like the way that year ended, Chris. I don't want to play football like that. I like having a defense that can get stops because I know 15 is going to figure out the rest, and he's doing that right now.
yeah, yeah. 2018 lost is the only gave us
I
the
just
bird
got
the
mad all
only
over again. I don't know why
yeah
I did
the
that.
only team to ever score 50 and lose, and the going to the Super Bowl came down to a coin flip. I know people will say offsides, but if the Chiefs, I think if the Chiefs won that coin flip, they're going to the
We
Super
go down
Bowl.
there and score. Facts.
So yeah,
Played the
so
Bills game. Yeah.
yeah, I'm with you. I'm with you. Knowing that you can lose a coin flip and in a big playoff overtime game and feel really good about giving up a field goal or less, that's uncharted territory. That's uncharted territory.
That's a fact,
But
bro.
as we wrap up, CJ, as always, where can the good people find you, my man?
You definitely find me on Twitter at CGZ81, like it says on the screen, CJEEZY81. You want to talk bets, gambling advice, X's and O's, fantasy football, talk about the game itself. I'm always open to talk. I'm super excited for the games coming up. I can't wait for the Germany game. That's going to be so fun. I definitely got to set my clock now and see where I'm going to watch the game. But 8:30, Frankfurt, Germany. We're going to be playing the Dolphins in a couple of weeks. So I know we don't want to look ahead past the Denver Broncos because that's a division game and it's tough. But I'm super excited to play the Dolphins for obvious reasons. Explosive offense, Tyreek Hill reunion, and all the other storylines you can think of. So I'm super excited the way our offense played, our defense is coming together. Everything that we envision for this team is setting up for a great chance to go back to back. And having this much depth makes the year this much more fun. But we got to enjoy the ride, Chris. Don't want to look too far into it, but
No,
I'm super excited. So,
you got to keep taking it week by week. And as
one day
always,
at a time.
right, one day at a time. As always, you can find me on Twitter at 10penny88. And also, we will be having the Broncos preview. It probably won't be a super long episode considering we just played them and what they're 2-5 or whatever they are. So probably won't be too long one, but just to kind of recap what's going on there. And also, hey, make sure to check out KC Sports Authority. It's probably where you're listening to this if you're watching us on YouTube. Make sure you hit the subscribe button. That's all you got to do. Even if you listening to this on Spotify, go over to the YouTube page, hit subscribe, and leave. That's all we're asking. We would love for you to leave a comment and to watch it all the way through there. But if you ain't got time for that, you ain't got time for that. I ain't gonna judge. I know we're all busy.
Shout out to the Swifties. Y'all can listen to.
There you go. Right. Exactly. Always shout out to the Swifties. Love the support there. But all right. I think that's gonna wrap it up for us this time. We will talk to y'all next time.
Go Chiefs.